College football playoff picture could become a little more clear this weekend as another major conference hits the field for the first time. That's right, the Big Ten back in action this weekend. But this is ACC country, and the Atlantic Coast Conference still has two teams ranked in the top four. That's right, Clemson locked in at number one after putting up 73 points against Georgia Tech last weekend, and Notre Dame moved up to number three after an ugly win over Louisville, but a win nonetheless. But those aren't the only ACC teams with numbers besides their names. No. Four of the squads are in the top 25. Miami bounced back, moved up to number 11. Canes looking good. UNC, they did drop 9 places, but they're still in there at number 14. Virginia Tech moved up a few spots to 19, and NC State broke into the top 25. The Wolfpack are ranked 23rd right now. Two of those teams are going to go head-to-head this weekend. Let's talk rivalries for a second, man. That one dates all the way back to 1894, but on Saturday, NC State and North Carolina will meet on the gridiron for just the third time when both the teams are ranked. The Tar Heels slipped from number 5 to number 14, like we said, after losing on the road to Florida State on Saturday. Meanwhile, number 23, NC State, ranked for the first time this season after winning 3 straight games, including that 31-20 home win over Duke in that last outing. Yeah, rankings are nice, Wolfpack head coach Dave Dorn says, but you still got to perform.
We got to show up, and none of these rankings matter until the end of the season. So doesn't matter where we're rated right now. That didn't matter last week, didn't matter the week before. It won't matter until we play our last game.
NC State took care of business Saturday against Duke, coming out 31-20 on top. Quarterback Devin Leary, he threw for 205 yards and a touchdown, but he left the game with a broken fibula, underwent surgery on Sunday. Bailey Hockman is going to make the start this weekend as the Pack takes on North Carolina. Hockman was under center for State's season opener and against Wake Forest, by the way. Threw for 191 yards and 1 touchdown in that 45-42 win.
I think our team as a whole is rallying around Bailey because we know he's going to step up, he's going to play, he's going to have a great game. He has a lot of confidence in him. He has a lot of confidence in himself. He's ready to show the world that he's a legitimate college quarterback, and he's going to have a great game.
Coach Dorn always talks about being ready, about big opportunities. We had like a lot of players go down or whatnot, so being ready to come in and step up and play. So he's always been ready. He's prepared like a starter always, and he's started games here before too, and he's won games here before, so I know he's ready.
Hockman's going to lead the Wolfpack against the Tar Heels at Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill when that one kicks off Saturday at noon. UNC going to be looking to bounce back after a big upset loss on the road at Florida State. But as WNCN's Alyssa Ray reports, the Tar Heels, they're not looking back. No, they're focused on this week's contest. Alyssa?
Despite an incredible second-half comeback, North Carolina fell to Florida State on the road 31-28 and dropped from number 5 to number 14 in the AP rankings. But the loss to the Seminoles is in the rear view, and the Heels are full speed ahead.
I wouldn't say just because it's a state, but after we never want to lose, but after we lose, you got to have like amnesia pretty much and just forget about it, because you can't let Florida State or any team beat you twice.
Every opponent we play is very important, so we try to take it week by week. We learn from the previous game, then we move on after that. We don't try to stay focused on a team that we played the week before, whether we win or lose. We just try to focus on the upcoming opponent.
It's the first time since 1993 and just the third time ever that North Carolina and NC State meet as ranked teams.
No, they're having a great year. I think at the end of the day, it's a pride game. It comes down to, two teams that are 30 minutes down the road from each other. If you want to have the pride of the state and earn the respect of the nation, you gotta win the in-state games first.
I mean, it's an in-state rivalry game. I mean, something really to get excited about, especially this early in the year. Usually we're facing them the second and last game. Last year we played them the very last game of the season.
Last year, the Tar Heels won 41-10, but if you ask any of the players, they'd probably tell you these are two very different teams from a year ago. Both are much improved, and both are motivated and hungry to remain among the ACC elite. Chris?
Thank you, Alyssa. Now, if anyone was wondering if top-ranked Clemson was going to coast through their ACC schedule or really lay the hammer down, now you have your answer. The Tigers put up 73 points on Georgia Tech and only gave up a touchdown. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence threw for 5 TD passes in the first half alone. And as WSPA's Pete Yandy reports, he's got no plans to slow down anytime soon. Pete?
As the Tigers are an historic favorite heading into Saturday's game in Death Valley against Syracuse, the odds makers are giving them a chance to win by nearly 50 points as the week continued. Well, as you might expect, that combined with the fact that they've been handily taking care of their opponents in a 5-0 start means the Dabo Sweety's weekly news conference is more about topics for his team than the opponent itself. And along those lines, and having nothing to do with the fact the Tigers are playing a team from the Empire State this weekend, one of the New York writers again checked in his news conference talking about the Jets, who right now are in line to potentially have the #1 pick in next spring's draft, meaning they would likely select Tigers QB Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson head coach, enhancing Lawrence's credentials.
He loves to be coached. He's so focused. When he's not in, he's not over there, jacking around at the water cooler. I mean, he's locked in watching the guy who's in. Everything he does, people pay attention to. And so the best way he makes everybody else around him better is through his example.
Now, while some wide receivers have gained increased roles this year, like Cornell Powell and a youngster named E.J. Williams, the tight end position has grown in importance, particularly Davis Allen. He has touchdown grabs in back-to-back games and is becoming a nice complement to the starter at that position, Braden Galloway. Covering the Clemson Tigers, I'm Pete Yanity.
Good stuff as always, Pete. There's going to be a lot of orange on the field in South Carolina when Syracuse tries to find a miracle against Clemson. Kickoff Saturday at noon. Syracuse is going to be hoping to avoid a similar fate as Clemson's last opponents, but they know this will be a mismatch, trust me. Regardless, as WSYR's Stephen Fanti reports, the Orange are locked in and focused up on making a few waves this weekend.
Well, yes, it is factually correct to say that Syracuse is the last team to beat Clemson during the regular season, but there is so much different about this Orange squad compared to the one that pulled off that upset back in 2017. The team from 3 years ago had a healthy starting quarterback, home field advantage, plus the element of surprise, all of which is now a thing of the past. Cuse is not going to catch the Tigers napping this week. The Orange has Clemson's full and undivided attention because of their recent past, which included that one loss and a couple of other closely contested games. This one is not expected to be closely contested. The Tigers feature arguably the nation's most talented offense, while the SU defense ranks among the worst in the country in both rushing yards and total yards allowed. That helps explain why Clemson is favored by more than 6 touchdowns, essentially double what the point spread was back in 2017. But the veterans on this Orange squad refuse to be intimidated.
We've been underdogs before, and we've been able to win this game in the past. So, I think we're excited for the challenge coming up this week. And, we're definitely no strangers to being the underdogs. So they're definitely a good football team, and they put good film out there. It's important that we bring our A game this week and that we're all locked in practice so we're able to do what we want to do this weekend.
Kickoff is set for noon Saturday down in Death Valley. Clemson is 6-2 in the all-time series, 6-1 since the Orange joined the ACC. Covering Syracuse, I'm Stephen Fanti.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Notre Dame up to 3rd in the AP poll, but the Irish didn't exactly look like a playoff team in their last time out. As WTTV's Chris Whitlick reports, the Irish avoided a big upset last week and now prepare for a new challenge this Saturday.
The Irish are still perfect. It wasn't pretty, but Notre Dame escaped an upset bid from Louisville 12-7. Now, despite dominating all these statistical categories, the Irish offense stalled inside the Cardinal 20 too many times, leaving the door wide open. Head coach Brian Kelly knows his team's got to come out stronger, especially in a passing game that's just not clicking right now.
We have to play with a bit more sense of urgency. And sometimes the clock's ticking and you need to play with that sense of urgency, from the very first play. And I think, you learn about those things as we move along. They're extremely confident in their ability and their belief that they're going to win. They've won a lot of football games. But those are the things that we learn together and as we shape the 2020 football team.
That victory over the Cardinals boosted the Irish to number 3 in the country. And after 4 victories in the friendly confines of Notre Dame Stadium, the Irish now take their show on the road for the first time when they meet Pitt at Heinz Field in the Steel City. Dealing with new health protocols and procedures will make for another first this fall. Covering Notre Dame for Playbook, I'm Chris Whitlick.
Good stuff, Chris. After starting the year with 3 straight wins, the Pitt Panthers have followed up with 3 straight losses. The most recent one coming at the hands of the Miami Hurricanes. The Panthers, they put up 278 yards through the air, but the Miami defense held that rushing attack to just 22 yards on 26 attempts. No, that's not a typo. This week, to get off the losing skid, they're going to have to face Notre Dame, like we said. The Irish 4-0, but they aren't invincible. Last week, Louisville had them on the ropes, but just couldn't close it out. The Irish escaped with that 5-point W. The Panthers return home after 2 weeks on the road, which is a plus, but they got to play complete football if they're going to have a chance against Notre Dame.
They are big, strong, and physical, a typical Notre Dame football team. They base offensively out of 2 tight ends. They're going to put their 2 tight ends in. The Trumbull kid, number 24, is a physical, great blocker, their starter. Defensively, Clark Lee, an old ACC linebacker coach at Syracuse, does a nice job. He's based out of a 4-3, and again up front, they're just very sound across the board. Their safeties are active in the run game like our safeties are, so they make a lot of tackles. And we're gonna have to play our best to get a W on Saturday.
Pitt's going to hope to use that home field advantage with Notre Dame playing their first game on the road this year. Kickoff at Heinz Field, which, let's just be honest here, is dicey at best if you've ever been up there on a great day when it comes to turf. Kicks off at 3:30. Meanwhile, the Miami Hurricanes, they were stopped cold by Clemson 2 weeks ago, and last week it was all about seeing how they would respond against Pitt if they had the ability to put that loss behind them. The answer was a resounding yes. The Hurricanes took on and took out the Panthers team that was just no pushover. I mean, they beat them up 31-19, and I mean beat them up. Miami defense showed that they had what it took. Bending, yes, but never really breaking. Quarterback Jack King did have 2 picks. One was a tip pass, so I'm not going to tag that on him. It's a tip pass. Could have gone anywhere. But he was 16-31 for 222 yards with 4 touchdowns. Not too shabby. Next up is a night game with Virginia. Tough to plan for, especially when the Cavaliers are so different offensively, depending on who is under center. And we're not sure who's going to be under center right now. One thing the Canes coaches have instilled is not looking ahead and taking each team seriously, regardless of the record.
And giving every opponent that we play the proper respect inside this building that they deserve. It's not made up. This is not like, every team is the greatest team of all time. We show every week that there is a avenue to our defeat through this team's strengths. And if we don't take those things away, and if we don't play at our best and don't play to our strengths, we'll get beat. And you get a weekly show of that around the country.
Miami's going to see if its strengths are greater than Virginia's on Saturday night in prime time. Kickoff in South Florida, set for 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, Virginia, they made it all the way to the ACC championship game last year. But this year, that's what I meant to say there. They can't seem to catch a break, as Natalie Calaba from WRIC reports. The Cavs haven't won since their first game of the season.
It was another tough week for the Virginia Cavaliers. UVA and Wake Forest were tied at 20 at the half, but things went downhill in the fourth quarter. The Demon Deacons handed the Cavaliers their 3rd straight loss, 40-23. For Virginia head coach Bronco Mendenhall, the Cavaliers' 1-3 mark reflects how the season has gone.
Early downs, the balls going over our head or deep in the field or deep down the field for our secondary has been an inconsistency we have to address.
Brennan Armstrong missed the game with a concussion. UVA failed to pass for a touchdown without him in the lineup.
Getting our quarterback position solidified, which we had, and then having Brennan go out for the last game and a half. And then just the ball security, making sure we hold on to the football.
Senior linebacker and team captain Charles Snowden believes the Cavaliers' results aren't telling the entire story.
It's easy to kind of look at the record and say 1-3, well, that's obviously not trending in the right direction. But I would say internally within the program, the attitude of guys, and the culture, the growth is still occurring.
Next up for Virginia is a trip to number 11 Miami. Kickoff on Saturday night is at 8 o'clock. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabat.
Thank you, Natalie. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech is riding one of the best rushing attacks in the country, which led them to a dominant win over the upstart Boston College Eagles. And as WFXR's Jermaine Farrell reports, the Hokies going to look to keep things rolling at Wake Forest this weekend. Jermaine?
Last Saturday, the 23rd ranked Virginia Tech Hokies football team looking to bounce back from that loss at North Carolina as they hosted the Boston College Eagles. And bounce back they did as the Hokies offense rushed for 350 yards and the Hokies defense forced 5 Boston College turnovers. Tech improves to 3-1 overall, as well as in the ACC with a 40-14 win at Lane Stadium. Here are the stars of the BC game. You see the running back Khalil Herbert doing his thing again, rushing for 146 yards, and he caught a TD pass. You know, our quarterback Hendon Hooker rushed for a game-high 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also passed for 111 yards and a score. Defensive back Shamari Connor was named the ACC Defensive Player of the Week. He registered a career-high 11 tackles, 5 of them solo. He forced a fumble against Boston College. He leads the Hokies in tackles in 2020 with 29. And Tech's Doug Nestor was the co-offensive lineman of the week. He started at right guard and helped the Hokies rush for 350 yards, the team's third game of 300 or more yards on the ground in 2020. Now, with the 19th ranked Virginia Tech Hokies leading FBS in rushing, averaging 312 yards per game, rushers like FBS leader Khalil Juice Herbert is getting all the praise for his dynamic running style. In all the interviews he's conducted, Herbert gives a lot of credit to the Vice squad, as in offensive line coach Vance Vice's men up front. And offensive guard Lasitas Smith appreciates the love he gets from his running backs and quarterbacks.
It feels good to, get some of the light shined on us and stuff like that. But we also understand it's kind of like we know what we signed up for. So, to be an offensive lineman, you have to be very unselfish. And I feel like that's what we have here. Coach Vice does a great job at making, and Coach Fuente actually make sure we do a great job of being unselfish and making sure we don't care who gets the credit. As long as, we could go out there and play ball to the best of our ability and get a win, doesn't really matter who gets the credit.
Now, the Virginia Tech offensive line and running game will face a strong challenge, as on deck this Saturday they travel to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to play the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. This is a 39th meeting between Tech and the Deacs, with the Hokies having a 25-12-1 advantage, including last year at Lane Stadium when the Hokies beat then number 22 Wake 36-17. Kickoff for the game on Saturday is set for 3:30. Now, finally, in the Hokies portion of this awesome digital show, after the Virginia Tech Athletic Department leaders consulted with student athletes, coaches, and staff, Virginia Tech Athletics, they've created the hashtag Love Initiative for the 2020-2021 season. This unique logo features a VT embedded within the word love. The school officials say the design represents the values of the university and the Hokies athletic community. Warm-up shirts with the Love logo on the front will be provided to all teams with Virginia Tech. Additionally, each team selected a meaningful word or phrase to appear on the back of their pregame shirts to signify their stand for love, unity, and equality, as well as their collective desire to witness the end of racism and discrimination. And head football coach Justin Fuente shares his thoughts about the initiative.
Well, I think it's a great positive statement. I think I don't want to speak for Whit and his staff, and I certainly don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think the underlying message there is that love can conquer all, and listening to people and respecting people and having civil conversations about difficult topics, can ultimately help us as a society move forward. So, our kids enjoyed it. We have a couple words there on the back that I think are positive, that speak to subject matter that are important to all of us.
Now, isn't it great to see the Hokies sharing the love? Isn't that what it's all about, sharing the love? And speaking of that, I want to share some love and give a shout out to all the other sports anchors in the Nexstar Nation putting in the hard work to provide reports on the ACC schools, and to host Chris Clark and producer Tony Verana for working their magic. Again, thank you guys so much. And that is how the Nexstar Nation rolls, baby. Well, following the Virginia Tech Hokies, I'm Jermaine Farrell.
How am I supposed to follow that? You kidding me? You got the Love Initiative, you got Juice, you got the Vice Squad. It's just cooler up there where you are, man. I don't know what else to say. Thank you, Jermaine. Pleasure as always, man. Virginia Tech's vicious running attack hits the field, like you said, in Winston-Salem, 3:30 Saturday. And as GHP's Danny Harden reports, Wake Forest is going to look to hit the Hokies back with a tough rushing game of their own. Danny?
It's an interesting showdown this Saturday between Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. Both teams score in bunches. The Deacons averaging 40 points a game, the Hokies 42. But both defenses are giving up about 30 points a game. The Deacons know what priority number one is going to be: stop the Virginia Tech incredible running attack.
I mean, they're averaging 312 yards a game rushing the football. I've never seen a non-triple option team do that before. So, you know, we tell the offense whatever it takes. You know, the goal, quite simply, is to score one more point than them, and whether it's 6-3 or 50-49, I'd be happy with either outcome. And this is going to be a very challenging game for us. But I think after Virginia, we have some confidence. I believe our team is improving. Like I said in the beginning, I think we have to be an ascending football team this year. I'm seeing growth at our receiver position, our O-line position, in our secondary. And our guys are excited to play finally 2 weeks in a row.
Wake Forest has a pretty good running attack as well. Kenneth Walker III has gone over 100 yards in the last 3 games. It's Wake Forest and Virginia Tech kickoff set for 3:30 in Winston-Salem. Reporting on the Deacons, I'm Danny Harnden.
Good stuff, Danny, as always. And after a nail-biter 1-point win over the Pitt Panthers 2 weeks ago, last Saturday, the Boston College Eagles, no way to say it, they were blown out by Virginia Tech, 40-14. The offense, I mean, they put some impressive numbers up with a total of 435 yards, 24 first downs, but penalties and turnovers at the most inopportune times hobbled the Eagles all day. Finishing drives is key, and when they face Georgia Tech this week, things won't get any easier. The Yellow Jackets have multiple looks on defense, split zone safety, middle close, and they like to bring pressure and overload, man, with the best of them. On the offensive side of the ball, Coach Hafley's worried about their speed and aggressiveness.
Quarterback is, he can run it, he can throw it, and he's only a freshman. So again, a credit to Coach Collins for recruiting those guys and playing them early. And you can see they're getting better every single game. They have some pretty good receivers, number 1, number 2, number 15. Number 2 can fly. Probably one of the faster guys that we've seen on tape. Number 15's got some good size, and their O-line's solid. They do a lot. Like I said, they're really well coached. They'll spread you out. They'll run the football. They'll run the football with the running backs, the quarterbacks. They'll throw the ball down the field. They'll get the running backs involved in the pass game.
Got to talk to Coach Hafley about tilting that camera down. Kickoff at Chestnut Hill is coming up Saturday at 4 o'clock. Eagles' opponents this week are coming off the most lopsided loss in ACC history. But as WJBF's Brendan Robertson reports, Georgia Tech isn't letting that 7-3-7 L to Clemson keep them down going forward.
It's going to take more than the most one-sided loss in ACC history to crush the hopes of Georgia Tech head coach Jeff Collins. Even after the 73-7 loss to Clemson, the largest margin of defeat in ACC history, Collins very direct in his belief about his program's potential. He said they had a bad day Saturday, but that doesn't change where he believes the program is going.
The way they work, the way they come to the building, the way they connect with each other, the way they connect with the coaching staff, the faith and the belief and all of those things in building a program are there. We ran into we had a bad day on Saturday. That does not change where this program is going. That does not change where this program is headed. I'm just really proud of these guys, the way they've handled it, a bad situation, and come back and know that we've got another chance, another opportunity on Saturday against another really good team, to show what we can be and what we can do.
So Tech gets a chance for a little bit of redemption when they travel to Boston College on Saturday, and Collins still loves the fact that they'll be underdogs once again, this time, though, by just 3.5 points. With the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, I'm Brendan Robertson.
Thank you, Brendan. And Florida State picked up their first ACC win of the season last weekend, and man, it was a big one. WMBB's Courtney Mims is covering the Seminoles, who are looking to keep that momentum going into this weekend. Courtney?
The Florida State Seminoles have everyone in the ACC talking as they took down the then-ranked number 5 team in the country, North Carolina, on Saturday, improving to 2-3 on the year. But it's time to see if the Noles can build on that success for the rest of the season. The Noles had a big first half in the game, scoring 31 points and leading by 24 at the half. But in the second, they wouldn't get another opportunity to score. They struggled in the red zone and had multiple penalties. But still, a win is a win. And head coach Mike Norvell said they're moving forward onto their next challenge, the Louisville Cardinals, a team that's on a 4-game losing streak right now. And even though Norvell said he was proud of his team this past weekend, there was also a lot of things they needed to work on this week in practice.
I think sometimes the greater challenge is when people are patting you on the back. And, at the end of the day, that's why our objective is to get better in all that we do. And so, we're excited about the win that we just had, but you go watch that film and there's a lot of things that really kind of pissed me off that I saw, that we need to get corrected.
Norvell also said that Florida State's starting quarterback Jordan Travis is doing fine this week after he hurt his left shoulder a little in the North Carolina game. He should be able to continue as the starter this Saturday. Reporting on Florida State, I'm Courtney Mims.
Thank you, Courtney. Louisville nearly pulled off a huge upset win of their own last weekend, and I mean it was a one-possession game in the end. They had a chance to win it at Notre Dame, and that's tough. I mean, it's touchdown Jesus and everything. Cardinals had a great effort on defense, holding the Irish out of the end zone as long as they did. They didn't give up the big play and got a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And they did not do as well on third downs, which killed them, though. They added up, and the Cards came up just short in an ugly game, losing 12-7, and that leaves Louisville still looking for their first conference win of the season and facing a tough Florida State team. Will it be this week?
You can go back to last year. I mean, how many games were so close right there that we could have won or lost those games? This year, we've been on the short end of those sticks. I mean, the last 3 weeks, we've been in every one of those games. Very easily could have won those games. And so we're really close. And so we just got to continue on and doing the little things correctly, finding ways to make plays offensively and defensively, continue to get better. And so, yeah, we hope that what we did last week would, instill a little bit of confidence and encouragement to our guys to continue on what they're doing so that we will, be able to go out there and get some big wins. I mean, that's obviously what it's all about.
These two teams, each with losing records, feel like they've got a lot to prove. The Seminoles and Cardinals square off on Saturday. That one kicks off at noon. Time is flying by. Week 7 in the ACC football schedule, and teams are definitely starting to separate themselves to show us who they are. So let's bring on Jason Logan from Covers.com to help us break it all down. And Jason, Clemson, they hung 73 points on Georgia Tech last week, and now they host Syracuse. What do the odds makers expect in terms of an encore from the Tigers?
So Clemson, they cleared last week 27-point spread against GT by 39 points. Books aren't playing around here on Saturday. They get the Tigers. They open them for minus 44.5 against Syracuse. It's been bet up to minus 45.5. It's still not the biggest spread Clemson has faced this year. They actually faced a 50.5-point spread when they played Citadel. They won that game 49-0. Still didn't cover though. Syracuse has somewhat been a thorn in the paw here of the Tigers in recent years. They've covered in 4 of the past 6 meetings with Clemson. However, the Orange got caught in a look-ahead spot there last week. Lost to Liberty, a good Liberty team. 38-21. Clemson won 41-46 the last time these two teams met. And this team is really picking up steam. So, I mean, there's really nothing there that says Clemson can't cover this big spread on Saturday.
Not bad, not bad. Now, Notre Dame won, let's face it, it was a dud over Louisville last week, and they scored just 12 points in that victory. The Irish hit the road for the very first time this season to Pitt. So, question is, which version of the Golden Domers do we see Saturday?
A strange question. They look great sometimes, and then they just absolutely stall out on offense at times throughout the season. Again, like you said, they hit the road, first road test here against a very good Pitt defense and a very stingy Pitt run defense with one of the best defensive lines in the country. They're giving up just 2.1 yards per carry, which is tops in the country or tied for tops in the country. Notre Dame's been able to run all over opponents. They get that big offensive line. They're 7th in terms of rushing yards per game. They're picking up 5.9 yards per carry on the season. But if you look back at their schedule, they really haven't played any really good rushing defenses here. So Pitt's going to be leaning heavily on this defense to get the job done. QB Kenny Pickett, it looks like he's going to miss this game because of injury, and that means that Joey Yellen is going to get in. He played well against Miami last week. The total for this one is pretty low, 44 points, but there could be possible in the rain. They play this game at Heinz Field, and even in the best of conditions, sometimes that field is questionable. I think it's going to be a big, ugly game, a big battle in the trenches. So I like the under 44.
And last but not least, Virginia and Miami mix it up in Hard Rock Stadium Saturday night in prime time. The Cavaliers, they could be without quarterback Brennan Armstrong due to a concussion. How does that impact the odds for this one?
Yeah, Virginia is a pretty big favorite, but kind of a weird number right now. They open plus 11. They're up to plus 11.5. Bit of a dead number in terms of football point spreads. Bronco Mendenhall has rolled out 3 different quarterbacks here to make up for Armstrong since he went down against NC State on October 10th. They have some guys that can throw the ball, and they have a couple of guys that could run the ball, and that's where we've seen this big bump is in the rushing attack. They totaled 218 yards in the loss to Wake Forest. They ran for over 40. They ran on 45% of their snaps in that game, and they actually broke the 200-yard plateau on the ground for the first time in almost 2 years. The total for this one is at 58 points. I'm surprised. It seems a little high. And if Virginia goes heavy on the ground again, it means short gains. It means the clock is going to run. So it definitely leans towards the under. And again, this is one of those games where the forecast could be messy. Could be calling for rain in Miami there Saturday night, and that could slow things down. So I like the under 48 in this one. Sorry, 58 in this one.
All right, thank you, Jason. Always nice to have someone crunch the numbers and to break it all down for us. Enjoy the games, my friend.
All right, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, Duke, only idle team in the ACC this week, but still making news. Junior redshirt quarterback Chris Katrinik will not return to the Blue Devil squad for the remainder of the 2020 season for what the school is calling a personal circumstance. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is hard at work. Outmatched? No. Pushed around on the field? No. Duke has been in every game, even tight at the half. But all year long, the Blue Devils felt like they were just behind on repping out plays, getting comfortable in the scheme, and getting their conditioning right. It's tough to do when they also have to prep for a game. You kind of compare it to launching a boat prematurely and then trying to make sure it's watertight on the ocean. It is tough. But this week, they could finally catch up on the work they've been missing, get right for the rest of the season, and finish strong.
We're not honing in on the little details that we need to do well in order to win. You look at any of our games this year, there are points in the game where we're leading late into the game. And so, one of the things that Coach Kyle always talks about is we need to protect our lead. And to do that, we need to do the little things right. And so that's honestly what it comes down to. And I would say that's what we're focusing on this week in the bye week is, the little fundamental things.
The Blue Devils 1-5 on the season. They're going to have to wait until Halloween to try and pick up win number 2 when they host the Charlotte 49ers. A week from Saturday. Kickoff for that one is at 7. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us on Playbook. Remember, you can catch a brand new episode every Thursday night at 7. And until next week, get out there, watch some college football, everybody. See y'all next Thursday.